I've got too many tote bags. But it's fine, right? Because having tote bags stops me from using plastic bags. I made the mistake of Googling it, didn't I? And now I can't unknow that information. So instead, we're going to have to deal with it. It turns out to offset the energy of making one of these cotton tote bags, I would have to be using the one tote bag every single day for 54 years. That's 20,000 times. And I am currently holding 12 of the tote bags that I could find around my house, which would mean I would have to use a tote bag every day for 648 years. And I am feeling healthy, but I don't really feel like I might last that long. So what do we do with that kind of information, and what has gone so wrong? I didn't really know how to explore this in my head, and I get really distracted when I'm watching other people's YouTube videos. I was recently watching a video with Struthless, who was talking about his vomit system for doing journaling. What does journaling have to do with tote bags? Absolutely nothing, but I found the titles that he used in that video really helpful for unpacking my own thoughts about this riddled problem of tote bags. So I thought we could go on a little walk and talk about it. Come on. V is for vent, like get angry about things. I know that when us as a society learned about how bad plastic was for the planet and how it might destroy everything, we all got kind of angry. And you know when you act in anger and you panic and you just replace one thing with another thing because you want a quick fix to stop yourself being as angry at the world and as angry at yourself? Well, I think that's what's happened with tote bags. However, I was watching a really interesting video on Future Proof's channel about the history of tote bags and plastic bags, and it turns out that the reason we use plastic bags is also because of a reaction of venting, of anger. Way back when, it was much more normal for us to use paper bags with flat bottoms to carry our stuff from the grocery store or the supermarket to what was usually our cars. A flat-bottomed paper bag being shoved into a boot makes sense, right? Perfectly designed. However, as we started moving more into urban environments and living in cities, obviously that didn't work out for us. Carrying loads of paper bags with like bottoms, it didn't work. So it was much more efficient for us to have plastic bags. It meant that we didn't have to drive to the supermarket. We could do something much more eco-friendly, like walk there. So it turns out the reason we started using plastic bags was also a result of venting, of getting angry about something and wanting something better for us to use. So it's interesting when you think about the evolution, the pipeline of how we got to the tote bag, that it has always been about trying to innovate and change things, not only for convenience, but also for accessibility, for making it easier for people to not use cars, which in those days we were like, yeah, that's probably the main priority environmentally wise. Right? So if we understand that how we've ended up with these tote bags is through a process of trying to get angry about something and then slowly think it through, I think we can get on to the O of the situation, which is obligation. Let's go. Welcome to the obligation station. Now, I think it's interesting that the environments in which I'm usually encountering bags like the tote bags or like this kind of reusable bag from a supermarket, it's usually in a retail environment. And I'm usually being asked by the cashier, do you want a plastic bag? Ooh. Or would you like to buy one of our reusable bags? And the question that I'm hearing in my head is, are you a good person? Yes or no? To which the answer from me was obviously like, yeah, I am a good person. I will have a reusable bag. In that situation, I've realised that in my head, I am implanting my obligations onto the cashier. They're presenting me with the obligation and I'm picking it and I'm doing a good job. But is that where our obligation ends? Or do we actually have to start thinking about whether the question posed to us is a valid question? It's a very binary question, and both options often end in waste and also a sale for the shop. We're not asked, would you like a plastic bag or have you bought your own? Because to that, I would definitely start bringing my own bags more often because I'd be like, the lady's going to ask me, I've got to answer something. So when we stop outsourcing our obligation onto shops and start taking it on as our own and realising that that's what we've been doing, we start to think more about the M in vomit. M is for mindset. Now, I'm not saying that every time we're faced with the question, do you want a tote bag? Do you want a refillable bag? We have to go through this big like emotional process of like, God, am I a bad person? Am I a good person? What's going on? I think it's much better to focus on a mindset. In Struthless's video, he talks about the example of this rowing captain who, instead of telling his rowers, his players, what to do for every single decision in their life while they were training, he instead drilled in one question into their mind, one mindset. And the question was, will it make the boat go faster? Are you going to eat broccoli or cake for dinner? Neither are the wrong decision, but which one would make the boat go faster? So when it comes to us choosing tote bags, we have to ask why we're doing it. And if why we're doing it is to limit our consumption and try to use and love the stuff we have more often, then it's a really important question to ask when you're going to buy a new tote bag, like, will this stop the world from burning? And the question might be yes. If you're supporting a small business or you're buying a new kind of tote bag that solves all your problems and all the reasons why you weren't using the ones that you currently have, then maybe the answer is yes, get the tote bag. But I think it's really important, instead of disciplining ourselves and being like, this is so bad, what have I done? To change our mindset. Instead of outsourcing each small decision onto other people or sweating about each single one, changing our mindsets is much better. The reason that I'm wearing all of these tote bags is because I love the new Vinted advert, which is, what if we could see our consumerism or our overconsumption and have to carry it around every day? And there's these videos of like people wandering around with all the different pairs of sunglasses they have. So I'm trying to go into it every time I buy a tote bag to try and picture what it would look like if I was wearing all the tote bags that I currently have. And thanks to this video, I now have a lot of images of it. So I think that really changing your mindset to be like, what do I already have? Why isn't it working? Is much better than a big old slap on the wrist. Right, we're going for I. I is for ideate. Is focusing on your individual tote bag consumption really the most effective thing to do? Is it going to make the boat go faster? Now, if you've looked into fast fashion or watched one of the fast fashion documentaries, you might have heard of this market in Ghana called Catamanto, where there are these really iconically horrific mounds of clothes, and it's used as to demonstrate this idea of waste colonialism, that a lot of the clothes we throw away or believe we are giving to charity, in fact, end up here. What they don't tell you, but I learned in a book called Consumed by Aja Barber, is that 25% of all of that clothing that you see in those piles is free t-shirts. Free t-shirts, like charity walks, runs, one-off events, hen do's, things like that. Things that people are giving people these bits of waste for free when they haven't necessarily asked for it, and they're literally designed for a one-use event. Face melt. I wouldn't be surprised if there's also a lot of tote bags in those piles, and it makes me think a lot about what we project onto tote bags as a symbol when collectively we're giving them away at events or other things. They're there for the company or the organisation or even the charity to say, hey, we're giving you something reusable. We're great. We're doing our thing for the planet, even if it doesn't, in fact, make the boat go faster. So if we're really thinking about stopping self-punishing and more thinking about getting moving and getting active and being effective and ideating what we have in our heads, then really we should be thinking about the organisations, the companies, the charities, the communal spaces we're involved in, and whether they are producing things like tote bags and t-shirts that we don't actually need. Often a policy or one thing or like one conversation can have way more of an impact on how much actual waste is produced, rather than us berating every single individual bag that we already own. So in order to bring about the world that we want, we have to start thinking less about maybe what's individually going on here and more what we participate in collectively, and how we can persuade those companies or those charities to ask their because question, like they're trying to communicate that they care about the people that have come to their event, that they want them to belong and feel part of something. They want to seem like they are being ecologically sound and sensible. So maybe we make patches or edible cakes, or we all agree to wear the same colour, or we give them something else that is not as wasteful as producing one of these tote bags, which is going to take 54 years to pay off. Am I even going to be alive for another 54 years? How old would I be? I'd be like 89. No, I don't think it's going to happen. Oh, I'm getting a bit worked up. Maybe it's time for some tea. T is for trajectory. What direction are we actually going in, and why does it matter? What, dare I ask, are we toting? Do you know that's what toting actually means, to convey? What are we toting? It's such a dad joke. I couldn't resist it. So when it comes to what we think our relationships with tote bags will be in the future, what could it be? Could it be that supermarkets just give us tote bags and reusable bags and we bring them home and then we bring them back to the supermarket next time we come? That way all the tote bags that existed in the world would be being used every day, and that 54-year thing starts to look a little bit more doable. Maybe we're sharing tote bags around our communities. Maybe we're not actually doing a lot of individual shopping. Maybe we're eating more communally, so we don't need to all have our individual bags all the time. Maybe instead of focusing on where our tote bags come from and how many we have, we start focusing on like how much plastic is in our actual shopping that's in our tote bags, how often we're going to the shops, if we actually need to go to the shops for non-essential, non-edible items. These are all questions that keep me up at night, but I think it's kind of so much better to be more excited about the direction that we're going in our trajectory rather than thinking about where we've been before and what we're doing now. I think it can really direct where we're going in a much more productive way. For example, 1.4 million school uniforms are thrown out in the UK every year. Did you know that? Like, that's insane. If we can stop that kind of thing from happening, I think we'd be much more well placed to solve the tote bag and the general textile waste thing. Another thing is that when we return clothes to the shops, they usually put them in landfill. There's lots of perfectly good, unused, untouched clothes that are going into landfill every year that we don't even see. So when we think about our individual consumption and our individual responsibility, knowing that us alone can't direct a rudder a different way, we can't change the trajectory on our own, we start to think in a much more effective way about how we can solve the tote bag problem. The main message I want you to take away from this video isn't that tote bags are bad, nor that you should never ever buy another one ever. I think sometimes a well-placed tote bag that you know you're going to use loads is perfect. For example, this one from Lunenburg Books, I am never getting rid of. It's so colourful, it reminds me of a really cool trip I took, and it can fold up really, really small so I can put it in another bag, and I always have a bag with me wherever I go. Some of these other ones, however, I might want to pass on to a new home. I really recommend just getting out your tote bags or whatever you feel like you're over consuming and putting them all in one place. It gives you a really amazing perspective on what you already own and what you might need. I also don't think that the answer to tote bags is just one. How do we solve the tote bag issue? The answer is yes. Do it all. Share your tote bags around. Make sure that the people around you in the communities and the companies that you're part of aren't overproducing them. Maybe even dabble in making your own. I'm going to leave a free sewing pattern to make your own tote bag if you really want to customize your own. And in general, just enjoy them. Just make sure that people aren't using them as a visual tick to say, look, we did the thing. We made some tote bags. We are eco-friendly. The box has not been... That was scary. The box has very much not been ticked. What does the idea of a tote bag make you feel like you're doing, and how can you actually do that? That's what I'm ruminating on at the moment. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. This video was made possible by the Gumption Club, who tip me per video to make sure these videos keep happening. And I've recently added a Discord option to the Patreon. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I've also added some extra tiers with some extra perks recently. So if you want to go and check that out, the links are below. And I think that maybe I have too many tote bags and I might start giving some of these away to patrons. So if you are part of the Gumption Club, watch out for that. Frogsnog out. No, it's the fossil fuel industry flying through the skies, ruining my shot.